More Manchester. More Manchester. Every hour you listen with Eamon and Diane. BBC Radio Manchester.
It's 7 minutes past 8.
I'll declare the result, first of all, for Bolton. The number of yes votes, 20,529. No votes, 76,000. Brilliant. The number of yes votes, 16,563. No votes, 64,001.
Again, and
Manchester
no.
City Council.
Well, both of our guests are laughing, and I don't know why.
I know why.
Different reasons to laugh for both of them.
So those are the results on Friday. Every council in Greater Manchester said no to the congestion charge. So is that us waving goodbye to £3 billion worth of public transport improvement?
Well, the congestion doesn't go away, and somehow a new plan is needed to get some money to build those trams, build those tram routes, provide more buses. But as everyone has been pointing out, there is no plan B. So what do you think we should do now to tackle congestion and sort out public transport?
Sean Cork is from the Association of British Drivers, and Stephen Hall is from the Campaign for Free Public Transport in Greater Manchester. All right, Stephen, let's start with you. That sounds utopian. How are you going to achieve that free public transport?
Well, it isn't utopian. It's actually being operated in the Belgian city of Asselt at the moment and been very successful. There's been a tenfold increase.
But Asselt's about the size of Fallowfield.
It's 71,000 people, which I suppose is comparable size to somewhere like Lee. It doesn't matter the size. It's
Well, it does,
people
surely.
use working models. Well, these people, do models of small buildings and then build bigger ones. It's only the same principle, and basically it's worked effectively there. It's
Don't you think that's a bit naive, though? Because how much is this going to cost?
Well, first of all, we've got somebody actually doing a costing on it, but in Scotland, where a similar scheme's been proposed, the Scottish Transport Secretary said it would cost £500 million. We used the figure then of £1 billion to say, well, in which case we could have the best public transport system
Per year,
in the world. In the world in Scotland.
And it would do exactly what it says in the tin. It would be free.
And the people of Scotland contrast it with its equivalent to their share of the London Olympics, for example.
All right.
But it's utterly free. Any mode of public transport that you choose to get on.
Yeah, absolutely. And that way, I mean, that is the, our suggestion for congestion. That's the way to get rid of congestion 24/7 and not just try to tackle it at peak times, which I don't think actually the congestion charge would have done. The government can afford this money already. We already collect over 40 billion in transport taxes from excise, fuel duty on petrol, VAT on petrol, and from road fund licences. And from my recently reading The Guardian, 17.6 billion spent on transport. So what happens to the other 22.4 billion we already raise?
You said it's not utopian, even though Eamon suggested it might be, but it's not entirely practical. When we started to talk about this debate months and months ago here on BBC Radio Manchester, we had lots of people in the medical profession, we had lots of people who are salespeople, we had lots of people who have to carry stuff about their daily business. Plumbers, brickies. How are they going to get on public transport effectively?
Well, first of all, nobody suggested that they should have to get onto public transport. I personally also need a vehicle to get to work where I travel all over the northwest. So people will still obviously need vehicles. The thing, what we're trying to do is offer people a real alternative to the motor car, which at the end of the day is the only long-term solution to the problem. And also when you think about CO2 emissions, I mean, government's making various pledges to reduce CO2 emissions. 30% of all CO2 emissions come from transport-related emissions. So to actually tackle the question of road usage is important in tackling the CO2 emission question as well. So, and that's how we, one of the reasons a lot of us are approaching this question from the way that we are.
Well, we said at the beginning two different reasons. Sean, you voted no. You're from the Association of British Drivers. You're not bothered about getting people out of the cars, are you? You're celebrating the fact that people can jump in a car and drive where they like, when they like.
I think it's important that people are given a genuine choice, not the stick of this will cost you £5, get out your car now. As to what to do about it, the first thing we can do is look to Birmingham, who said no to TIF and started a program called Quick Wins, where they basically started tackling roadblocks, bottlenecks in the roads.
In what way?
Removing the bottlenecks in the roads where you
Sorry, I don't know what you mean. Widening the road?
You see, we're not widening the road. What we've seen in the last 10 years, the roads have been narrowed in junctions. It may be traffic calming or whatever, but what that does is create like a gate in the traffic which backs up for miles and miles. If you suddenly start releasing that gate, you open that gate, you widen the road at that one particular spot, then you let traffic flow.
Can you give me an example in our area where that would work, where that would be really effective?
Probably the worst junction I think I know in Manchester is the one at the end of Regent Road, just you're approaching the Mancunian Way. You get 3 or 4 roads feeding in, all into one set of traffic lights that gets backed up from both directions. Now, surely we can redesign that junction that will free up Mancunian Way, the roundabout over the top.
There are all short-term solutions to this, because, talking about the Mancunian Way, Sean, that was meant to relieve all the traffic, because that was an orbital road round the city centre, and a lot of it is high level, as you know. That's not helped.
Well, again, I mean, I think you probably hit the nail on the head there. The problem that we've had is the last 10 years, investment in public transport has been absolutely minimal compared to Europe. That is a problem. We've had a government that's invested nothing in public transport and then decided the way to then improve public transport was charge drivers.
So the essence is, let me just get this clear in my head. Both of you agree that there should be significantly more investment in public transport.
Yes.
But not, obviously, through charging motorists.
Yeah.
Just invest in public transport anyway.
Yeah.
Now,
Would you like to see us increase our taxes to pay for this?
The money's already there. It's down to how you allocate it. We've had various crazy schemes like ID cards. We've had wars in Iraq. The money is there.
But everybody says for their argument the money is there. It's just how you allocate it.
It's a case of government priority. If you go to Europe, their priority is to improve public transport, invest in public transport. In this country, it isn't, and that's why we're in the mess we're in.
would you agree the first move might be to re-regulate buses?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What difference would that make, do you think?
Well, I mean, at the moment, what's led to is what we've got at the moment is a situation where we've got basically a lot of the funding that we've got and is going straight into the profits of these private companies.
I think one thing we can do is bring back conductors on buses as well. Instead of the driver having to take the fares and stop for 10 minutes at the bus stop, taking 30 fares. The bus stops, everyone gets on, he drives off, and the conductor takes the fares, and you cut journey times.
Under our system, we don't need a conductor, and we don't need collect fares, you just jump on.
Okay, because it's free. You're not paying for
In
anything.
fact, it speeds up the buses because you don't have to have the problem of paying the fares, you just jump
Well,
on.
Stephen, you've been criticised for coming up with this plan, which sounds great, but you're able to talk about it because you know, really, actually, it's never going to happen.
Well, I don't think so. I think you're wrong there. It is going out as far as I'm concerned, because I want to campaign for it, and there's other people who are in this campaign, and we're going to actually build a national campaign. One of the things that we're proposing is to launch a national campaign where we're going to line up MPs, political parties such that we can, trade unions, and we're going to actually promote legislation.
Well, we've got to the crux of it, haven't we, just a moment ago when we said that much of the public transport that we are obliged to use is in private hands. Yeah. And while that remains the same, you will not get free public transport.
We want to return it to public ownership.
All of it?
All of it, yeah. Right. Including the rail.
And that would be the first step.
Well, we think it should be run as a public service on behalf of the people in this country. And, 72% in a recent survey said the only thing that will get them out of the car is access to free public transport. Therein lies the answer to the question.
Jim has sent us a text on 07786 206951. You keep referring to government money after the congestion tax results. The government doesn't have any money. It's the taxpayers' money. If this money is available, we should get it without being bribed or having to jump through hoops.
Absolutely. Right.
Nodding wildly in the studio here. Sean says, free transport. What happens to car sales and the related revenue?
Well, car sales are already down by whatever, 36%.
So we just allow that industry to be decimated?
At the end of the day, that's what government says we should be, even in America they're talking about General Motors.
Yeah, but they do want to bail them out, don't they? You can't allow that to happen.
It's a bridge too far, that one, actually.
At the end of the day, people will still want to buy cars. Yeah, it's not a case of them buying them, it's a case of them using them. People want to buy cars for recreation for the weekend. Some people still have to drive. It's about whether or not they use them in the peak period, which is, after all, what this is all about.
Jim also said in Holland it's very expensive to park in town centres. The cars parked where they shouldn't be are just towed away straight away. Public transport is on time, clean and comfortable. Easy answer, try it, it won't hurt. Only those who insist on driving in the centre pay. Here of petrol, no congestion there.
I just think one thing in Fantasy Island about public transport being available and practical for all of us. The way our lives are at the moment, so many people live so many miles away from where they work. I mean, somebody like Justin living up in Ramsbottom and having to get into Manchester for, 5 o'clock in the morning. It's not doable for most people. People have to, make so many different journeys, getting on so many different buses. I think the car is a practical alternative for many people, and you won't get them out of that mindset.
It depends on, I mean, we're not talking about going completely one way or going completely the other. We're talking about people who can switch to public transport, are switching to it, but they're not getting fleeced by the public transport companies for doing that. That's the problem. People look at the bus fare and think, well, hang on, I can drive to work. It's cheaper. All I'm paying is petrol. I park for free at work. Why would I want to use public transport? But if the public transport is cheap enough, then they'll say, fine, that is now an option. It will actually save me money to go on public transport.
Sean Corker, Association of British Drivers, Stephen Hall, campaign for free public transport. If you thought the congestion charge arguments were finished on Friday night, you can forget it. They're only just starting. Thanks, gentlemen, for joining us this morning. It's 17 minutes past 8. And whether you're on the bus, the tram, or in your car, you will have passed a few houses this year going in for Christmas lights in a big way. All sorts of decorations. And as part of our launch of Real Christmas on BBC Radio Manchester, we're taking you to a street in Bolton that's become famous. And here's Kevin Fitzpatrick.
What year is
Morning,
Obviously
Kev.
not listening.